a lot of the things that um, Brother Omawale had outlined in his agenda are things that we got to do moving forward. But the main emphasis from everyone in the group was the belief that we've got to do everything we can to vote folks out of office who are backing these restrictive bills all over the state of Texas. And so with 1927 as the focus, we need to get out the vote. Simple as that. The only way we're going to change things in the state of Texas is to get rid of the people who are making these, proposing and passing this legislation. So with that in mind, our last thoughts were to ally ourselves with as many organizations that have voting issues as their concerns, so that we can put this forward, because we got to vote them out, simply put. So that's the update, Mr. Omawale.
Okay. So we should be having a fact sheet that's being finalized. I'm going to put a little pressure on to get that fact sheet finalized before our next meeting. We put graphics on the fact sheet according to Reverend Reginald Mays. So the fact sheet has our talking points, and so we are in the process of finalizing that. I understand that there are going to be some revisions, more discussion about the strategic plan that I presented, but the strategic plan will be discussed and we'll try to finalize that. I'm hoping that June through August will be a big push in terms of gaining allies, because it will be 1 year, September 1. It'll be 1 year, September 1, that the HR 1927 has been effective, and that's when we want to have our public action with a press conference and a vigil, which is in the strategic plan. So anyway, people, hopefully we can get a wide enough consensus that on the strategic plan and the fact sheet by next time we meet. The next time the committee will meet is on Wednesday the 25th, the last Wednesday in the month. I want to encourage you, if you have individuals or you have organizations, David Atwood has given us organizations that we can use on the fact sheet or use in our propagation of this cause. If you have other organizations and individuals, please let myself or Reverend Johnson know who they are, and we'll put them into our file. We're going to have a young lady to join us. I don't know if y'all remember, that was a mass shooting outside a club in New Orleans about 3 years ago, and her niece was killed in the mass shooting. And so she will be joining us as we go forward in our next meeting. And she has some real skills, and similar to what Miss Brandley has. Okay, so Johnson, I think that you've actually constructed a commendation letter that we can send to Dr. Vida Roberson.
Yeah, I did, and unfortunately, it got lost. So I have to reconstruct it. And when do you want it?
Yeah, well, I tell you what, soon as we can get it, I will work with you and Dr. Grace Butler, polish it, and then we'll send it on out, and we'll send it to everybody, ask them to send individually, and then we'll do a collective for a more perfect union meeting. So if you could do that, hopefully in the next 72 hours, we'll make something happen.
Okay, cool, no problem.
Thank you. Okay,
And let me apologize for that as well.
that's okay, not a problem. So Nancy, in the absence of Shara, I think the sheriff said that she had to go to Blackshear this morning.
She's on.
Shara's on the call.
Oh, she's on, okay.
Hi, Shara.
Hi, Nancy. How are you? Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
Hi.
Good morning. We were just sending some light and love out to you. We thought that you had been beamed to another location over the Blackshear or somewhere, but you actually here with us.
Well, yeah, both. I'm here at Blackshear and with you.
Oh, okay, good. Then. All right then. Well, I'm not going to go into how do you manage that because we need to learn how you manage to be in so many places at the same time. But at any rate, I'm glad that you and Nancy are both here. So we're going to ask this dynamic duo of Shara and Nancy to let us know what's happening with this food security project.
Okay, well, it better be Shara because I don't have the details.
Okay. And well, Nancy is modest because part of it is also a tree planting component that Nancy has really spearheaded. And so I've been helping her with that. And we had a real successful one out at Pleasantville. So that's a different project, but all related to resilience for our minority communities, which a lot of times don't have the green space to help mitigate the heat that we have to go through here in Houston. We know that's going to continue to be an issue, probably get to be an even bigger issue. So we had a real successful tree planting. And real quickly, I would also like to talk about the Health and Wellness Initiative that's starting at Shape Community Center. It is an initiative where it has several components. We want it to be sustainable, but the goal is to strengthen the ties and relationships between community centers like Shape and community gardens. So we have a partnership with Alabama Garden, which is only 2 blocks from Shape. I'm here at Blackshear. Blackshear is right down the street from Shape and Alabama Garden. I'm actually sitting right next to their garden. I'll show you a little bit of it. And they're having a community day today. And so I'm here pitching the Health and Wellness Initiative for Shape. So we're, the first phase is to recruit what we're calling community wellness ambassadors. And so we're putting together a group of 15 to 20 community members who have an interest in improving their own health or an interest because of the health of a loved one or a family issue, or just a general interest in improving the health outcomes in our community. And so we're here talking to people who have that interest. We're going to provide them a 5-week series of sessions where we're going to have whole food, plant-based cooking demonstrations, tastings. We have 2 lifestyle physicians who have signed on to the project, and they're actually working on our steering committee to make it happen. So there will be talks, there will be videos, there will be gardening demonstrations and lessons, there will be container gardening. Omawali's good friend, Ginger Judy, who we hope to have on a future call, will be teaching us how to grow fresh produce on our back porch with container gardening. And so we're building knowledge and resources for food security, which we know is an issue in many communities. Shape is in a food desert, but it's beginning to be an issue for all of us with rising food prices. So that's what we're doing. And so the project seems to be off to a pretty good start. We've got a lot of work to do. The sessions will start June 4th. So if you know anyone who you think who lives in the 3rd Ward area in Houston, who you think might benefit or might be interested, please just send me an email. I'll share my email address and I can provide more information. There's no cost for any of this. And participants will get a box of fresh produce every week from the gardens, along with recipes, so we know how to make it taste good. So that's basically it for what we're trying to do there. And we're hoping this group of people, the commitment we're asking from them is that they will share what they learn and be a part of the process of improving our health outcomes for our communities. And thank you. Thank you for the time, Omawali.
That was good.
Thank you.
Nancy, did you want to say a bit about Pleasantville, the tree planting? That was a big success that spearheaded out there.
Okay, the tree planting was held at Pleasantville Elementary, and there were two parts to it. One was to plant trees at Pleasantville Elementary, and the other part was a tree giveaway to the community. And we got the trees from a group called Trees for Houston that makes a practice of giving away trees. So we just got them to come out to Pleasantville and give them away there. And they have a Facebook page, and through that, they publicize it to the whole city. So all sorts of people, not just people from Pleasantville, came to pick up trees, and they could get up to 10 trees if they had enough room for 10 trees. Not too many people did, but everybody got 1, 2, 3 like that. And they had people there to load them into their trucks and cars if they didn't have trucks, and then off they went.
That's a good.
We're lined up. The event, I think, Nancy, it started at 9 or 9:30, but people were lined up at 7:30.
Right, and they opened early because people were lined up in the truck that was there with the trees. So rather than just sit around, they started early, and people, they had 500 trees, and by the end of it, they had 9.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a good day.
So that's all, a part of building resilience in our communities, with climate change, being more of a factor. We're trying to do all the little things that we can to help people thrive through all of it.
Yeah. And thank you from Pleasantville resident. I don't live there now, but that's where I grew up.
Oh, wow. That's a historic community. Nancy and I got a good while we were there too.
Amazing tour, and then we saw the mosaic that's on the wall in the community center there.
So you all no doubt met Bridget Murray.
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
Bridget had actually been working on the project for a while, and Nancy came in, helped get it across the finish line.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Thank
All
you.
right, guys. Well, I'm going to run back to the Blackshear Festival over here, and good to see everybody. And thanks for listening.
Thank you, Shara.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Thank
Care.
you.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
So, folk, it appears that a bona fide movement has really developed. I'm thinking about that old adage that nothing is so strong as an idea whose time has come. I guess that whoever planted these seeds, 30, 40, 50 years ago, is now we're getting dividends from it. I was just remarking, amusing about the number of people who line up in order to get the tree. I think that we can count that as a success. So Nancy, make sure that you give Dr. Bob a few kudos from us for the whatever role that he played and you all played as a family in this. One of the things that we wanted to maybe ask Dr. Bob to do next time, if he is available, my understanding is that we had 6 power plants that failed in Texas yesterday, and between 3 and 8 this afternoon, they asked everybody, when I said the regulatory group, ERCOT is asking everybody to keep your thermostats 70 and above between 3 and 8 this afternoon. So maybe Dr. Bob can speak to that next week, in the next 2 weeks, Nancy.
Okay, I'll bring it up
Okay, very good there.
when he gets home. He's out giving a talk about fruit trees.
Okay, good. Good.
Uh,
Good. Okay, yes, sir.
As a former power plant engineer in the military, I can speak to that now. It's all about outdated old equipment that has not been maintained properly, period. And the folk who run at ERCOT don't want to do it because when they get us in a pinch, they can do just what they're doing now. And, you know, you have that, if you're on a balanced billing thing with NRG, you have that little clause that says based on the industry standard price at the time. So, you know, those folk who got those huge bills after the freeze, it was all ERCOT's plan. You know, and the only way you want to stop yourself from being, from an energy standpoint, not even getting into fossil fuels, et cetera, et cetera. You got what you got right now, and you got to, you know, if you're gonna keep a used automobile, you got to commit yourself to doing what it takes to keep it running. And they got used automobiles at this point. Some of these power plants are 100 years old. They can't handle this kind of stuff. They need to update and redo their plants, and they just don't want to. I'm done.
Thank you.
Sounds right to me. From
Me
other
too.
things I've heard.
Okay. So I don't want to start prognosticating, but the likelihood, Johnson, if I'm just making an inference from what you said, the likelihood is that as the temperature gets warmer, hotter, July and August, that we've got more of the same. Is that the implication?
Probably, you know, because there are two things that are happening here in Texas. The age of the generating facilities and the lack of. There are two problems. You don't have enough generating facilities, and the age, operation, and maintenance of the generating facility that you have online are marginal at best. So those are the two things. You know, you got outdated equipment and you don't have enough equipment.
Okay.
You know, that fire at the NRG plant out in Richmond last week that shut down one portion of that plant. You know, now that's a coal-fired power plant. Okay, but you know, just having to take that portion of the plant offline lowered their ability to provide consistent power. And don't know how long it's going to take to get that particular portion of that plant up and running again, but it still just adds to the problem of not having enough equipment and not having the equipment that you have being maintained in a highly efficient, highly, you know, you got to put a benchmark on keeping old equipment, man.
Okay.
You know?
Why haven't the industries that use electricity gotten on ERCOT and got them to do a better job? They need that power to make money.
They absolutely do. But I suppose when when we get into crunches like we've gotten because of power here in the state of Texas, those other attendant industries that need it, whatever they're selling, they get to price it up too.
Mhm.
And I forgot my thought. Go ahead.
That's okay, Johnson. We didn't know that you had this engineering toolbox, a skilled toolbox, and so to know that that's in your wheelhouse is going to help us going forward as we begin to prosecute this issue, because we might want to bring in the subject matter expert, but it'd be good to have you knowing that you have this in your resume, about this power plant engineering background. That's good to know. One of the things that we want to do as I began to move around a little bit is that we wanted to see if we could get Cheryl to contact Efren, who works with that solar farm in Sunnyside. I understand that there are probably, this is one of maybe the top 6 solar farms that are going to be in the nation that's going to be in Sunnyside. And I understand it's going to have a huge impact in terms of, employment and the way that it meshes in with the rest of the green ecology in the city. So we're going to have somebody to bring us, see if they can actually bring us up to date on this solar farm out in Sunnyside, because I do understand that it is a big deal, and maybe one of the things that the mayor and those people who work with him might need to get a kudo on is the solar farm. So I'm assuming that you folk would probably not object to having somebody from that solar farm to come in and tell us about the impact.
Not at all.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, so I would be doing that. In the interest of time, I wanted to mention a few things here. And I'm gonna talk to David Johnson about, it seems like that we had a group of people at a previous meeting were interested in more or less a labor manufacturing subgroup in order to help with employment, to spur some things. And I had Johnson's name down and I had David Teller. So I'm just letting Johnson know that I will independently follow up with you all on that.
Well, that was also, what was the attorney's name? Hickson?
Oh yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Eric Hickson.
Right, Eric Hickson. I've been waiting on David Taylor and Eric Hickson to get in touch with me. I gave them my number. I told them when.
Yeah, I'm gonna add one name to that, and that's gonna be Brandon Den, who is the director of My Brother's Keeper, because in the milestones for My Brother's Keeper, so far as working career, entering the workforce for boys of color, especially the ones who are not gonna pursue a college-based education, this looms very large. And so I'm gonna put Brandon Den's name down along with Eric Hickson and David Johnson and Eric. So, okay. So Johnson, I will be making sure that I facilitate that handoff.
Okay, no problem, man.
Okay, good. I think
I-
it's
you know,
wonderful.
I've been waiting with bated breath for those brothers to get in touch with me. Because
I think it's a wonderful idea.
David Taylor with his labor background.
Oh yeah, he was like a secretariat internationally too. So yeah, David can help some things move. One of the things I wanted to mention is that My Brother's Keeper managed to develop a partnership between, I think that was Texas State University, the University of Houston Community College, and started a virtual welding seminars that were at the local high schools, where you basically we managed to get a machine from, I think it was Texas State University. And we, taught the kids how to weld virtually. And then we were able to, give them an exam and teach them. But it was one of those far-reaching technologies that probably for the kids who were not going to college, is that it kind of led them into a field, especially in this area with all of these plants around Baytown and blah, 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 around these areas. It was a kind of a, I won't call it a life raft, but it was at least a conveyor belt that would lead them into some good paying industry jobs. And surprisingly, there were more girls interested than boys.
And unfortunately, Brother Omawale, a lot of these young folk have no idea that these career fields are available to them. And oftentimes they don't necessarily have a willingness to get dirty. Some of these jobs require you getting dirt under your fingernails. And so, it's an attitude thing too. You got to be willing to learn something in order to make some money. It might not look good on you, but the money will look good in your pocket, and the knowledge can't nobody take from you.
Well, I'm glad you're interested. So MBK has 200 or so chapters nationwide, and I think that the virtual welding project from Houston, it can be showcased among all of these 200 chapters, and also the Congressional Black Caucus is going to meet in September, and it's possible that it can be showcased as a best practice before the Congressional Black Caucus. So yeah, Johnson, we are aware of this mindset attitudinal shift that needs to take place, but thank you for mentioning that. So folk, if we can move along, I think I'm gonna leave this. So Robert Reich, I don't know if you all know him, but he is the UT professor, along with Timothy Snyder, who has been talking about this threat of our democracy dying in the darkness, with this rising illiberal authoritarianism. And so he's come out with a, I think it's actually a more or less of a mini book, pamphlet, agitational advocacy piece that we are already in a second civil war that is low intensity. It's going to get more aggravated and accentuated by as we go in the midterms and beyond the 2024. So what I like to do is to, being consistent with the presentation that Shara did with Timothy Snyder's book on his video on authoritarianism and his writings, I want to see if we can bring Robert Reich's theories, his projections, which I'm sure that they're going to get some presence on Fareed Zakaria's Global GPS. So if anybody has an interest in further developing and teasing it out for everybody who's part of For a More Perfect Union, and some of our associated groups, let me know, because I'll be glad to let this get out of my hands and go to somebody else.
Omawale, what are you actually asking? Are you asking for a presentation, or are you asking just to spread more information, or what? I'm trying to understand.
I think that we actually need a presentation, especially if we find that his conclusions warrant attention. I think that we definitely need a presentation. So, David, if you or anybody else would research that piece that he just did on this emerging developing second civil war, if you think it's of any merit, if we can develop a presentation that would educate people, I would be interested in that.
Well, I'm willing to look into it definitely. Because
Okay.
I admire that guy and the writings he's done. So I'll look into that for you and get back to you on that. And let me mention while I just quickly too, separate from that, and this is separate. I've been reading, I get in on the different books I started reading, and I don't know what attracted me to it, but I've been reading this book that Ron Chernow put out on Ulysses S. Grant. It's about a 900-page book, and it has given me an appreciation of the more than I had of the time period following the Civil War, which a lot of people know about. But my goodness, I just there were parts of that book that just has been an eye opener for me in terms of really understanding this history. And I knew some about it. I'd read some books already on that subject, but it's just amazing. And I guess one thing I was really surprised on and how much Grant picked up on what Lincoln was trying to do in terms of, the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments. And then the struggle, my God, that's still going on today. And I think this thing with Robert Reich, falls, and what's happening in our country falls into that whole thing, this resistance to voting rights, the resistance to really everybody having equality in our nation. And I mean everybody. And but getting back to Robert Reich, I'll look into it and I'll get back to you on what we might do.
Okay. Well, thank you, David. I think that this something interesting is developing here based upon what you said about Grant and how you might begin to merge that in, because I do know that Grant is that he actually sent troops into the South following Reconstruction to suppress the Klan and those other right-wing terrorist racist groups. I want you to consider how we might connect the presidency of Grant and the kind of measures that he followed up on after the assassination of Lincoln to what it is that we are facing now. The reason that I can talk about this a little bit, I was so intrigued by that history is that my wife and I, we took I guess an educational vacation and visited. We tried to visit every battlefield site that the Army of Northern Virginia was involved in for about 7 days. And it was one of the, it just absolutely, the things that I learned, that we learned about United States fight for democracy and our racial history was just absolutely stunning. That Grant, that Ulysses S. Grant, and it seems like that I want to say, I don't know if this is any kind of window into the life of every human being. Grant was plagued by so many demons. He died a poor man. bankruptcies, business failures was his history. He's somewhat autobiographical for me because he smoked cigars, but sometimes he would smoke 200 in one day.
What?
Yeah, but you can imagine the stress watching death and amputations on amputation of limbs and that type of thing
Yeah, PTSD.
on a daily basis. It will
Give you.
nicotine as a vector of stress. These other things, you can imagine what he was dealing. But anyway, he's one of the people that looms large in the fact that we've survived 250 years with our democracy, even though it's imperfect. I just want to give a shout out to Ulysses S. Grant.
Yeah, I was just amazed at what I read, and I didn't know why the book was so popular. I guess that's probably what got me to read it, and it's a big book, but boy, it gives you this history. And I saw things that happened. I mean, after the Civil War, and trying to give everybody equality in the South, and how the people, and of course, back in those days, it was the Democrats. How things got flipped, and what happened on January 6th, this attack on the Capitol, on the U.S. Capitol. I mean, these kind of attacks took place in the southern states on courthouses and state houses, where both black people who were trying to vote and the white people that were trying to support them, they were attacked by the people that didn't want these changes to take place. They did not want the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. They did not want people to vote. And they it was like another civil war. I mean, supposedly the Civil War was over, but the Civil War wasn't over. In fact, the Civil War isn't even, my feeling after reading this book, Civil War isn't even over today by any stretch of the imagination. It's just more subtle, it's hidden, and everybody tries to be nice, and they never want to say anything out loud about what they're doing. They try to hide it, but it's the same thing. So it's a really fascinating book. But getting back to Robert Reich, I'll look into that, and I'll get back to you on that, Omawali, and I'll let you know what I find out, and then we can talk about it.
Okay, thank you. And I think you're probably going to encourage, just like you did the expose on the James Burritt book that you read, and your James Burritt experiences post his death experiences. We might ask you to do something in the future just so that we can have a greater appreciation of post-Civil War Ulysses Grant, and how it bleeds over into our present day. So, Dave, I think you've opened up something that has is deserving of a lot more interest and attention, and I think it is something that will enrich this group. So please do so, and we'll ask you about that next week.
Okay.
I think that the other thing that before we start checking out, so I want to get people's, so we said a few things about this question of this cure that's going to take place in this country around reproductive rights. I think you all remember that based upon, hold on a minute, please. But if this brain can catch up to what we were saying about, we remember that on Rachel Maddow, we did a presentation here about they trying to criminalize in vitro fertilization. We did that about a year ago. And so that was kind of our splash into this question of reproductive rights. But when Charlotte gave the presentation, I told her is that I didn't want to inflame anybody over being pro-life or pro-choice or anything like that. It had to be done in some type of neutral way. And so I think that we've got to have a handle on how to do this if we introduce reproductive rights, because it's not our intention to really fracture or polarize our group. I think that we've done well that we hadn't had, because we're really we're nonpartisan. We have been nonpartisan, but I think that, you know, we've got to figure out how we want to introduce this question of the impact of what this means in terms of the what it looks like this draft decision means that there are going to be some profound changes. So if anybody has a formula on how to do this without inflaming what has been a good process for a more perfect union, let me know, because I don't.
Well, how about addressing it as more of a health issue?
Okay, can you elaborate just a little bit more, Benavides?
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to, be specific about pro-choice, pro-life, but some of the consequences are going to end up in a woman's health negatively. Whether it be, there's a contraceptive issue, there's things that women have to use contraceptives for health reasons. So it's not necessarily a pro-choice or pro-life thing. And this is really going to attack the privacy issues on those other things that are related to health.
Yeah.
That's a good approach, because I mean, yeah, it's a health issue. It really is. It really is, above all the rhetoric.
And let me just mention, I've been looking at this for quite a long time. People ask me, well, because I got a Catholic background, what are you? I say, well, I'm pro-life, pro-choice, and that'll make people's eyes cross every now and then when I say that. But I go back into the history of some other things. You think about the time in the U.S. history when they tried to get rid of alcohol in this country, right? Prohibition was at the late 1920s when that happened, and they had laws that passed that made it illegal to have alcohol. But the American people didn't want it. The majority of American people, if they wanted a glass of wine at night, or if they wanted to go to a bar or whatever, they all knew the dangers of alcohol. I mean, we all know that the dangers of alcohol, but the American people in general did not want to get rid of it. And so it only lasted so long. So sometimes I will say to people, and I'm not an expert on it, I think the health approach that Salvador mentioned is really good. But the people, I don't think are going to, no matter what the Supreme Court does, I think it'll cause a hell of a disruption in our country. But I think that it's not going to last, because the majority of the people in this country, this is something that the majority of people want. I think it'll never really take hold what the Supreme Court is trying to do at this time. And this is also, I think, an expression of this extreme right wing, quite frankly, white male right wing ideology that seems to extend its tentacles out into a whole bunch of things. And I think that's what's happening here. I don't think it'll last, but I think probably in terms of a discussion, you know, the health implications is a good approach that Mr. Salvador mentioned. So,
Mhm. Well, I would certainly try to investigate. I guess I'm going to depend upon some of the trusted guides that we have on the call to basically come up with the contours of how that needs to be put together and how we might get talking points. One of the things that I would like to say is somewhat reassuring to me, David Atwood, I thought I was the only one, of course, I don't have a Catholic background, but I thought I was the only one who was using this nomenclature of pro-life and pro-choice at the same time. So it's somewhat of a, it's somewhat of a pat on the back, and assurance that, it's not oxymoronic. If David Atwood's using that as pro-life and pro-choice, it can't be oxymoronic. I find him to be a credible character. So yeah, thanks Dave for mentioning that. And I will be trying to reapproach as to how we might get some credible talking points in this, with this subject matter. So I think that Salvador, thanks a lot for giving us a more or less of a thematic approach that we can use on this question of health. But we know that things are going to get very fractured and ugly about this issue. But I think that health rises, health and wellness rises above some of this partisan fray that is inevitably going to develop. Does anybody have any other comments they'd like to mention about this subject matter before we move on? And we're just going to follow up. I'm looking at the chat, and just to review. So Johnson, we're going to try to close out in 72 hours this letter for Dr. Vital Richard Robertson.
Yeah.
We got that. I'm going to reach out to Eric and David Taylor about this labor subgroup. And also I'm going to reach out to Brandon Denton and about his engagement. And Atwood is going to bring us something back on Ron Reich and his contention. And Sharon's going to try to get Ginger Judy to come on, because Ginger has this platform for, I guess, in raising Nancy, where you can containerize, is that you can raise enough essential veggies in your backyard on your porch. Is that right, Nancy?
Yes, well, she apparently was going to talk about raising vegetables in containers, which isn't something that I've done because I do have a backyard to plant things in, but there are people who don't. And it's also a way to get started, with a pot on your back porch. You could keep an eye on it and learn from that how to grow vegetables, and then get into something bigger.
And you're going to ask Bob to kind of play soothsayer, give some projections on what we're looking at with this with these power plants failing.
Yes,
Okay.
I'll do that.
Very good then. Okay, well, good folk. I want to thank you, and I want to thank Cassidy in advance, because what I understand is that next time we're going to be on a YouTube channel, which we will give to everybody, and we won't have the ability to showcase some things like the agenda on the YouTube channel, but we'll be able to send it to your email beforehand. So, but I think that Cassie is saying that the YouTube channel actually works. So you have it in the chat. I'd like for you all to try. Oh, she said we're on YouTube Live right now.
Really?
Yeah. So, well, I'm gonna try. Let's everybody at least click on it. That link that she has, where she has, please subscribe, and that'll be. But let me let people check out, and then one word or any phrase you want, and then we can click on the YouTube channel. So we're gonna start with Benavides. Any checkout you want to do?
Yeah, whenever you find a group or community that inspires you, never let go of them. And that's what I found with you guys.
Oh, that's very good, man. That is very good. Put that in the chat if you can. I think we're going to have to capture that, because Shara had said something similar to that, but yours is more concise. Whenever you find a group or community that inspires you, never let go.
Never let go.
That's good, Sal.
Yeah, good.
So you guys are with me forever.
Yeah. Okay, what you just said, it was worth the price of admission for me today and the price of me. Yes, indeed. Okay, yes, sir. We're going to go to David Atwood.
Well, peace and love to everybody. I feel like an old hippie saying that, I know, but
Okay.
there you go.
Okay. Yes, indeed. Okay, David Johnson.
I feel a lot like Sal about this group. I look forward to our getting together on 2nd and 4th. I just wish that we could at some point, and this is just my personal thing, get together face to face. You know, we've met each other and loved each other from afar, but you know, for some of us, I'd like to shake a hand, get a hug. That's it.
Yeah. Johnson, I'm gonna say ditto to that. And looking at you and David Atwood face to face, always remember that the weekend before Thanksgiving, we always get together at the Mickey Leland statue.
Yeah.
And so y'all keep that in mind. We'll try to get together at the Mickey Leland statue again. Miss Edwards, Nancy Edwards.
Well, I really appreciate everybody in this group, and I wish more of them had been able to be here today.
Yeah, we're going to try to correct that. I think we got off track, but we will be trying to correct that, but and bring some of our people back in. So thank you, Nancy. And Ms. Brenda, do you have any closing comments?
Let's continue to uplift one another so that we can move forward in a positive manner.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna close by trying to just amalgamate some comments that I've heard, especially what Sal said about the community that inspires you to stay with them, and the whole question of our growth and learning. And I'm reminded of something that Muhammad Ali said, is that if you're at the same place at age 50 that you were at age 30, it means that you lost 20 years of your life.
That's right.
And so I think that we're in a better place than we were 3 years ago when we started this, or 3.5 years ago when we started this. So, hey, look, folks, I'm just thrilled that we're in the same compartment on planet Earth, circling this sun, that we, those of us who are here, somehow we got the blessings of being in the same compartment on this trip around the sun.
Yeah.
I almost want to say short trip around the sun. Okay. I want to say short because I was having to do something on one of these websites where you had to put your age in. I don't know if it was to buy cigars or whatever, but you went from they had one of these graphic deals where you had to scroll down, but it started from 2022. And so I was scrolling down, it took so long, and I got into, when I went down, I said, whoever did, this is an old dude if you got to go from 2022 to the 40s. And I realized, I said, well, that's me. I'm talking about being an old dude. But it's beautiful that we're here. So we know how to reach out to each other. And I think one of the things that I'm encouraging is what Shara and Nancy did. Shara and Nancy, in between meetings, they found a way to reach out to each other, found a way to work together. So let's continue to try to find a way that we can work together. Salvador, we pray that your tenure will be fruitful and productive. You'll get deep dividends, and the people will get deep dividends from your work as a county attorney. So God bless, and we'll see each other in 2 weeks.
you.
I think that'll be the 28th.
All right, all right. Ms. Brantley just suggested maybe we all get together and go see Bob Hinchin somewhere.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. And look, Bob has